This is Alan Baker and Bob Berge. We are the Association Director and the Technical Director of Eric Paulson's Combat Submission Wrestling Association. Welcome to the CSW podcast.
Okay, guys, welcome back to another CSW podcast. Special guest today, Iris Matthews. She's Alan's right hand at Atlanta Training Center in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're going to throw it over to Alan and Iris. And today we're going to talk a little bit about scheduling classes, following up on leads, and the women's Jiu-Jitsu program. I hear this awesome girl is running that right now, and she happens to be with us. Hi, Iris.
Hey.
So let me throw it over to Alan a little bit. He's familiar with everything you're doing there, obviously. You guys work together every day. And bring us in on a little bit of that, Alan.
Yeah, she's pretty much my right and left arm. Go ahead and check that right away. If it weren't for the boss here, that's her nickname at the school. We refer to her as the boss for obvious reasons. She's pretty much in charge of everything. Like I said, if it weren't for her, a lot of what I do would not happen. So anyway, some of the topics, we'll start off with leads and following up on leads. I'd like to go over just what you're doing currently for tracking leads. What is the platform you use?
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Right now I'm using Zen Planner. So we use the Zen Planner software for our student database, but we also use it to track the leads.
So, like if a lead comes into the school, starting off, what are the most common communication methods that you receive at the school now?
Emails first.
Yep. So say an email comes in from a lead, what's the process?
If there's a phone number attached, I call immediately. If I leave a message, I'll also follow up with an email. Whichever method they get back to me first is the method I continue using moving forward. And I usually follow up every few days until I get them into the class.
Do you have a set follow-up schedule, or do you just do it every few days, or do you have a certain system you follow, like every 5 days, every week?
I usually do it weekly, depending on the lead. If it's a hot lead, I usually do it 1 or 2 days in between follow-ups.
All right. If you don't get, say, communication back from them right away, how often do you follow up? How many times do you follow up with them?
I usually follow up 3 to 4 times with no response.
Okay. And after that, do you have any type of continued communication?
I use MailChimp, and it will send periodic emails to them, reminding them about the school, what we have coming up, that sort of thing.
Okay. So,
Alan, let me jump in. I have a quick question on that, on MailChimp. When someone signs up, how do they send you that contact, Iris? Are they filling out a join a newsletter form, or are they opting into a newsletter like that?
For MailChimp?
Correct.
Both. We do have an opt-in. There's one on Facebook, and we do have one on the website. Okay. But normally, like the ones that I put in there are the follow-ups to send out periodic emails. So they don't really get put on the newsletter. They get put on a separate list of people.
And is this something that's like an autoresponder type thing to where it automatically happens, or is it a list that you're kicking out manual?
I'm kicking it out manually.
Okay, and how long, forgive me if he already answered this, I heard Alan asking that, how many times, I think you said 4, are you following up with them before it's to the point where they're cold and they drop off?
It's usually, I go 3 to 4 times of no response. So 3 to 4 weeks after I hear nothing from them, they go into MailChimp.
They go into MailChimp after that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do they have any problems being contacted after they haven't answered you after 4 times? In other words, are you getting thrown onto a spam list or anything at that point?
They have the option to opt out, and I don't inundate them with emails. So they'll get an email 4 weeks, then 3 months, then 6 months.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, so you got the lead. You enter him into the system, and I don't think we discussed that as what the system actually does. How does it inform you on your follow-ups?
They are put into a prospect call list, and it'll tell me how many days since the last time I contacted them. And if I have a specific date that I want to contact them, I just create a reminder. So it'll shoot me an email and it'll put it on my dashboard in Zen Planner that I have to call so-and-so.
Okay. So after you've made communication with them, what's the process you follow as far as bringing them into the school? What's the first physical contact?
I usually invite them to come try a class. So I try to schedule the class as soon as possible. So within the week.
Okay.
And the day of the class, they get a follow-up reminder, making sure they know how to get here, know what time to get here, what to bring, that sort of thing.
And the program works with multiple people. I know that you'll enter it sometimes. Chris has the ability to sign into the platform and also see where we are with different leads if he has to follow up with them too, correct?
Yes, because I can assign tasks to Chris. Right. But it'll also show him who's scheduled to come for the classes.
Okay. And you've used other platforms before prior to this one, haven't you? What was the other ones that you used?
Before Zen Planner, I used Track My Leads.
Yeah. And you like Zen better?
I like the reporting on Zen.
Yeah. Me too. I happen to get those reports, and I appreciate the way those are laid out.
Well, that's Excel.
So what happens in Excel? Tell me about that. Now that we're on the subject.
Oh, for the reporting?
Yes.
So there's 3 reports out of Zen Planner that what I do is just consolidate them and put it into actually numbers on the Mac. Mm-hmm. So it's similar to Excel. And that's where you get the RQ, the student count, the leads that have come in, how many have scheduled intro, that sort of thing. Okay, so the first number there that you bring me, we have a meeting every Monday morning, is RQ. What is RQ? The Retention Quotient. All right. Explain that to me. It explains how much of the student body we're losing every month, the percentage. So it is the efficiency of our back door. Yes. Right. And the next number we usually go over is? Student count. Student count. So the overall number of students at the school. The next number? Which would be the losses. Okay. And then the number after that? Is the leads. Okay, perfect. Any other information that we go over, or that is the core list of information, what we call the pulse? Yes, the core, because then after that is from the leads, how many are coming in, how many are signing up. That way we know where in the process we're having issues. Okay, and I think it'd be good to kind of chat about that for a second. And one thing is like the RQ, which is pretty much measures the back door. Yeah, we like to keep that around 3 to 4%. If it starts going up, meaning we're losing more people, it's a measurement, a pulse. It tells us that our floor needs some attention. We either need to, maybe raise the energy in classes. Maybe we don't have the curriculum organized well, so the student knows that there is a clear path. Do we have the curriculum on the wall so they can walk over and look at it and go, this is what I need, and I need it in that amount of time in order to make this social advancement. So if the RQ starts to spike, those are the things we take a look at, which is a lot of times for us relates back to our instructor training. Like recently, we've really stepped up our instructor training program. And one of the key things we applied to it was the KISS principle, right? We tried to simplify it. So we're making it easy for the guys, right? We might have tried to require a little more of them than we needed to. So we had to bring down the size of the processes and internal systems that they had to follow on the floor. Next would be really, if we looked at it in the process, the leads.
So we take a look at how many we've received. And out of that, we actually divide that up. How many made it to the door, right? How much made communication? And then past that, how many had a physical appearance at the school, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if we had 100 contacts and only 20 of them made communication, what does that tell us?
Our phones need work.
Right. So when we say our phones, some schools will follow a script. We have a loose script that we follow, that there's a list of principles we require the guys to do. They need to gain a certain amount of information and a few other things that they can do it their own way. We're not very strict on it, but if there is that much of a spread, that tells us we need to go back in our staff training and work with our guys on how they're answering the phone. And try to step up the process, the amount of energy that they're creating in the communication and that type of thing. So we got 100 leads. 75 of them actually made a contact with the school, and then only 20 come in for a physical appearance. What does that tell us?
We're not doing very well scheduling them for intros. So we're probably giving them too much information out the door that they make the decision before they even come see us. Okay,
good. So then we would have to take a look at that internal process, the internal procedure, and make an adjustment. Mm-hmm. So this is the way we use the pulse at the school. You can track way more numbers. I'm a big believer in keeping things simple. But we should go over these numbers once a week, and we do. And that way we can take an honest look at ourselves, where we're at in our process. Are we actually achieving our goals, or sometimes we think we're doing a good job in an area and we're not. So it's good to kind of, since we brought that up, to chat about that and how that's set up. I do a lot of coaching with different schools. As you know, boss, you arrange a lot of those sessions. And a lot of people don't track the percentages of what's going on with their internal operations and their procedures. So it's real important. We didn't for a while, did we?
No.
We didn't have a lot of change, a lot of growth until we did. Once we did, it made a big difference for us. It forced us to take an honest look at where we were. Cool. Anything you want to add to that? Lead processing?
The last percentage that we look at is the actual signups. That way we know once they're physically here, how many of those people actually signed up. That way we figure out if we have a lot of people trying out the classes but not many signing up, we know that there's something wrong with the way we're doing the intro lessons.
Okay. And as far as the intro process, there's many ways to do that. Some people will do a single, a double, a triple. I think we're doing an in-class introductory lesson right now where they have a mentor that works with them in the class. And one of the reasons we're doing it is simply because of the percentages. It's worked the best when we look at the numbers and then come back and decide what to keep or what to change. Perfect. Next subject would be the women's jiu-jitsu program. We actually talked about doing this for a while. I know 4 or 5 years before we finally got around to doing it, didn't we?
Yes.
And then what was the main reason for us to finally decide to put this on the schedule?
Well, the final thing was I said I wanted to have my brown belt before I started.
All right. And that's true because there's nothing like teaching to ingrain the knowledge you have deeper. And we also had some requests for that type of, actually quite a few, for a women's jiu-jitsu program.
Yeah.
So we decided to put it on. We put it on 2 days a week. Marketed. I think we primarily just focused on social media marketing and our current student body. We have a student group on Facebook that has all of our current and all of our past students are still in this group too. So it gives us an opportunity to maintain a relationship. And I think that's the one that got the greatest effect. Once we started putting some posters and stuff in there, we immediately, how many did you have in the first class?
10.
All right, cool. Well, once you started it up, what kind of adjustments did you make for this class? I mean, did you change your teaching method any than what you would normally use in the adult class?
I modified it slightly from a woman's perspective, because there's a lot of the techniques that we do them just like we do them in the co-ed class, but I kind of looked at it from a self-defense perspective. On the street, a woman, what happens when somebody gets you on the ground, and how do you react, and what do you do? So we kind of took that perspective in the class.
All right, that is valuable information. I'd like to focus on that for a second. So give me an example of a technique. Well, most of the guys that are going to listen to this are professional martial artists, and they grapple, almost all of them. So pick a technique and give me an example of how you would present that in that class from that perspective.
I guess I'm going to say, go.
I know you focused on escaping from side control quite a bit.
Yes. So I do focus a lot on the escapes, and the ladies tend to like that overdoing submissions because they want to get to the nitty-gritty of the escapes. The main thing we did was there's a lot of hesitation, especially with the smaller females, that they don't feel comfortable or confident enough to get out from a bigger opponent. So we kind of break down the techniques like the escaping from side, making frame, using leverage, using your body to push yourself away, not so much pushing the other person away.
Okay. Any other adjustments that you've made in there specifically for this program?
Adjustments meaning?
The way you teach, the way you arrange the curriculum.
What does one of those classes look like, Iris? How long is the class to start with?
50 minutes.
50 minutes. Okay, so do you have it in blocks? Do you have like a 10-minute warm-up and then a 40-minute technique and then a rolling session? What's your class look like?
Yeah, we have a 10-minute warm-up, and then we try to focus on 3 to 4 techniques and then rolling.
Okay. And how long is the rolling session after your technical session?
Depends on how long the technical session lasts. It could last anywhere from about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much we spend on the technical.
Leave them, as Don Guerin would say, sweating and smiling?
Yes, sir.
Did I get that backwards, Alan, or is it smiling and sweating?
I think it works both ways.
Awesome.
And are guys allowed in this class?
No guys allowed. I don't even let them watch.
All right, this is one thing I've noticed that you've done is you created a culture in the class. And for me, there's 3 different levels to creating a good class. And the third level is creating atmosphere and culture. And one of the things you did to trigger that was not allowing the guys in, and you won't even let them watch. And I noticed that the girls really get a kick out of go away. You guys you need to get lost, and they enjoy that. And it's created a club atmosphere almost.
Yes.
So the way you've done it, I think, is really good. Are there any other things that you've actively done to try to create that culture in that class?
We do focus a lot on like ladies' nights. So like Thursday night after class, we'll usually go out to eat. So getting to know each other off the mats kind of thing.
All right. So the social events,
yes.
Weekly social event on it. Excellent. Okay, cool. Anything else? Any other information on this program?
You know, at first I thought they would benefit more from like the co-ed class, but then I realized as I started it, they find more confidence when they're working amongst themselves. Mm-hmm. It's the whole embarrassment issue that they don't want to try it in a co-ed class. They want to try it against somebody their own size who's having the same kind of difficulties that they're having.
Right. You know, and it's like, too, I think it's really good to get your perspective on it because, I mean, we're guys. We don't look at it that way. And
I wouldn't have thought of that at first.
Yeah. And we're professional martial artists, you know, and it's a cool thing, but a lot of times it's a curse. I know we mentioned Don Guerin, and he'll refer to this principle as black belt eyes. And it's really difficult to get rid of those things sometimes and realize that not everybody is going to have as much passion, put as much effort in as you do, So sometimes I know we'll create a program and you're going to laugh because how many times have we done this over the years? I'll write a program and I'll put it out on the floor and I'll think it's great. And then your average guy comes in and looks at it and he's got big eyes like a truck's coming at him. You go, you want me to do what? And so it's back to the drawing board and trying to fix the program so that it works for the masses, the average guy that comes in. So
we're still going through that. That seems to never end, trying to get that right.
Well, it's one of the big things for us this year, and I think the boss would agree with me, is simplifying. Just that one little principle of keeping it simple and going back. And I'm getting a head nod there because it's, we said this the other day, it's mastery. Simplicity is mastery, and that is so true. And, you're really not taking away. I mean, would you agree, boss? Because you've been in this office, we've had these meetings, we've made the adjustments to the staff training, and you and I both will go, oh, that's just too simple. But then we'll watch what actually happens and check the percentages, and all of a sudden it's getting done.
Yes, we accomplish more doing less.
Yeah, and when we first started doing it, first of the year we really started working that principle in the internal procedures and here at the school. And I think either one of us really believed it was going to work. So we've both been a little surprised. But now that it's, we've actually built confidence in the principle, and we've gone out of our way to go back and implement it even more because of the success. And I think it's another thing you used on the Jiu-Jitsu program as well. I know I'm not allowed to watch, but I do peek and every now and then to see how you're teaching, how you're running the class. And I see you implementing that same thing out there.
So I will validate you on that on a completely unrelated topic. I had that thrown in my face. I guess it's a karma thing. To not overcomplicate things. We had some work done on our house recently, and we went to see some contractors. I'm not a contractor, and we had about 5,000 options presented to us, and I completely shut down. Can you show me 3 options? That's all I want to see. Can you give me 3 choices, and let me pick one of those, and I'll be perfectly happy. Exact same thing. I got to experience it in a completely different area, but I forget sometimes. I take those black belt eyes off. It happened to me just with a completely unrelated subject, but boy, it hit me right between the eyes. How fast I shut down when all of that, literally a foot-high stack of books was thrown at me, and, pick 5,000 handles for cabinets and what? Show me 3. And I'll be cool with one of those. Let me pick one of those. Same thing with a curriculum. If you fire hose somebody with, you can do 5 million different things, they're probably going to do 0 of them.
Truth.
Totally validating you guys on that.
And this is a perfect time to go back to the top of the list and what we mentioned, scheduling classes. Or just arranging the schedule for the school. And I'm going to catch a little hell from the boss here because she's already starting. Because I've had things on our schedule for years that I just can't let go for personal reasons. And it has nothing to do with the success of the school. Actually, it would probably be more successful if I just go ahead and drop it off the schedule and make life easier for everybody. But we picked 2 systems. I think we actually started with 3 and got down to 2. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we actually simplified again this year. So the 2 systems being Jiu-Jitsu and the Aries program, which is a program we designed here at the school. It's a self-defense based program. The reason we chose it was we talked about program design, I think, in the last podcast. And we wanted to do something on our own because quite honestly, we had complete control over it. And due to that, we could start with the business end first and design everything according to the percentages, and then we put the system in on top of it. And we started out at 0 at the first of the year, right? Mm-hmm. And just what have you seen happen with that program since its implementation in January?
Oh, it's exploded. Students from the other programs have been slowly switching over to that one. So we used to have the big 3, and it just became the big 2 because the other programs got smaller to jump into the Aries program.
So it works.
Yes.
Yeah, so we ended up coming down to 2, and that's had an effect too on people who come in and want to join the school. But in the same reason that Bob was talking about earlier, we had a lot of options, and it almost was
overwhelmed them.
It was a stopping point for them. I've got to think about it. I want to try this one. They'd spend 2 weeks trying everything we did. And now, if I'm not mistaken, you pretty much just direct them into one of those 2 programs.
Yes, unless they specifically are calling for one of the other programs, I usually direct them into Aries or Jiu-Jitsu.
And in your experience, since you've implemented it that way, what kind of change have you had as far as sign-ups?
It's a quicker turnaround, so they spend less time as a prospect when they have just those 2 options.
Excellent. We changed the schedule quite a bit due to that. It's like recently we were 3 days a week on Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
And we just went to 5 days a week.
Yes.
And we're 3 days a week on Aries, and we've several times, I know we've sat in the office and talked about adding 2 more days. And there's a smile, because the only reason it hasn't happened is because the owner of this place hasn't let go of a few other classes yet personally. I know. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
I think
it's interesting. One of the things I've learned, and I don't know, I'll bounce it off of the boss and see if you agree with me, is it's not our nature to do that. We have to keep things that simple. I mean, it takes discipline to do it. It's because of my knee-jerk reaction. And I know you've sat in this office, I don't know how many times, and watched me, let's do this. I'll get up on the board, and because so this is an inside joke too. I think on whiteboards. Actually, didn't we just order a new whiteboard?
Yes, just ordered it.
Thank you for that. But anyway, I think on whiteboards, I'll get up and I'll write 10 things, and I'll turn around and you've got that look. Give me that look. That's that look. And then I'll realize, man, I'm making this too complicated again. I don't know how many times over the years, though, you would just nod your head and agree with me. Now she argues with me, which is fantastic. And go, no, you're not going to do that.
I try to be nice about it, though.
Hey, I appreciate argument. I love it. I actually don't get it too often. Most people are just, sure, you do whatever you want. But, I greatly appreciate good, point of view. But like I said, go back to the original statement. It takes a lot of discipline to do it. Continued, because it is not in my nature to keep things simple.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that it's not in mine either. If you look at any of my work, it's I look at it now and I'm, holy shit. Like you look at it, you go, wow, this is just too much. Even my fixed versions of things I'm putting out right now is still too much.
But once you start taking it down, reducing, and you start seeing the effect of it, like it's the same thing that happened with us this year. You want to go and do a little more. Yeah, it's amazing that it works that well, and there's there's that much simplification. The principle of done. How does that go? DONE. Done.
But I mean, it that is such a real thing, and it's so powerful. Every now and then, even the guys who are supposed to know that need to be reminded of it. And I get lost in the weeds all the time. It's like, shit, this is still too much. And I see it on people's faces when I try to tell them stuff. Just like my little cabinet problem thing with the picking door handles stuff. It's like, man, I'm not an expert in this. This isn't my job to be an expert in this. Can just help me out. Point me to a couple of things. And that's our jobs as educators in this area, is to pick those few things. They'll end up finding it anyway. It's, you know, who wants...
Yeah, and that's our goal, is to just eliminate the amount of time it takes to learn that. I mean, it took us a long time. We've been in business.
Oh, me too.
Over 14 years now. We're going on our 15th year. So, you know, we were stubborn. Took a little time.
As am I.
You're not going to call me out on that, boss?
I said we.
Okay, there we go. I knew it'd come. I knew you were thinking it. All right.
Quietly, but...
You know, I might be a little stubborn. But, you know, that's a superpower in some parts of the world. So I think, too, is since we're on the topic of simplicity, it's important to point out the overall plan, whether it be for the business. And for me, when I coach guys, you know, they've got an overall life plan, and then they have a business plan. And it is simplified. And every time you sit down to change a process or put your hands on anything to do with the equation, and when I say the equation, I'm talking about the business or multiple businesses, you need to put it through the filter of those plans. It needs to go through the business filter and the overall life plan, because it's surprising how often you stray away from that if you don't do it. Because we do that. Once we come into a meeting, we'll review overall goal, and then we'll start talking about processes. And a lot of times we'll kind of get lost off on several little trails, and then we'll have to come back and go, you know, that has absolutely nothing to do with these numbers that we're talking about over here that actually make a difference. And we've actually eliminated stuff off of our schedule in the last 2 years that was not related to that, right? Things that initially we thought were important. I know I've done a lot of this in the last year and a half. Actually, we had Tim Wade in the office here yesterday. Tim runs, he teaches Pakiti Tersha. He runs his own organization. And this is one of the things we talked about quite a bit, was bringing it in and focusing, because you'll get lost. And, you know, part of the conversation was eliminating some of the areas, the paths he had already started to walk down. And, well, you know, I've done this myself. You know, I'm actually already made a decision on a path, headed in that direction, and then kind of realized, you know, this has nothing to do with the overall goal. And then, you know, like I said, beginning of this year, we actually eliminated quite a few things that were lucrative to focus on our overall goal and expandable equations. And what I mean by expandable equations is, like, you can be involved with some things that only have so much potential of growth. And sometimes you don't realize that, you know, there's a top end on it. And you sit down and look at all of the things that create revenue streams, and you take a good look at them. We did this at the first of the year and realized, you know, that one is only ever going to go this far. So we would eliminate a lot of those things, which was a good thing, because we got to focus energy back on areas that were making money. They were expandable. They had a greater range of potential, and now those things are doing great. It's like we run an AMAC tactical group, and would you say that has exploded this year?
Yes, it has.
We were behind the curve. We're having to do new websites, create new programs, and just because we decided to focus energy on that. So, all right, boss, I know I had to drag you on this thing, kicking and screaming, but
literally.
Yep. Like Bob said, I'll echo that. You did a good job, and mentally prepare yourself to do it again in the future.
Okay, if I have preparation time, I'm good.
All right. Well, let's say maybe in about 3-4 weeks, do it again.
Okay.
I honestly would love to have you back on here, Iris, because I think you shared some really valuable stuff.
Okay.
Thanks, boss.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Eric Paulson's Combat Submission Wrestling Professional Coaches Association. We are striving to be one of the top organizations in the world for professional martial arts instructor training and business development in the martial arts industry. For more information, you can contact me, Alan Baker, at cswatlanta@gmail.com or through the main website at ericpaulson.com.